I remember when Andrew was small, couldn't be more than 5 years old. I'd come home from a long day at work, my feet aching from standing in front of the stove at the diner. Yet, nothing could match the warmth of his hugs, that pure, unfiltered joy on his face as he threw himself into my arms. Those moments were where my heart found its rhythm, the laughter bubbling up like a song, filling our tiny home with warmth. Evenings were devoted to our special tradition, bedtime stories where I wove tales of bravery and adventure. His small hand would clutch mine tightly, the way he tried to chase away shadows. I'd run my fingers through his hair, reveling in how safe he felt with me. I allowed myself to feel proud then, seeing my love reflected in his gleaming eyes. He was everything I had hoped for, and more. There were sacrifices, endless sacrifices that punctuated my everyday living. I would skip vacation plans when my hours at work increased, insisting, "Next year will be different." I tore through magazine clippings that featured holiday destinations, tucking them away with hopes for a brighter tomorrow. And every Christmas, I coughed up savings for gifts that lit up his face. I never allowed myself to think about my own desires, feeling fulfilled so long as my family found happiness. Andrew began to grow, his head often resting on my shoulder in quiet moments. Those gentle gestures suffused our home with affection, forming the bond between mother and son. The sweet scent of cinnamon and freshly baked pastries permeated our kitchen, where he'd stand on a step stool, determined to help me whisk the eggs or stir the batter while we shared laughter and secrets. But that bond began to feel stretched as time marched forward. I noticed subtle changes, flickers of withdrawal, moments when the laughter didn't feel as genuine. The alarm bells started low, barely audible above the noise of everyday life. Yet, I kept a brave face, dedicated to ensuring everything stayed perfect. I believed wholeheartedly that love can absorb any consequence, but Melissa arrived, transforming my world in an instant. As she stepped into our lives adorned in a smile that cloaked her discomfort, the shift was palpable. I remember watching them exchange vows on that pristine June day, the sun shining bright. She radiated a poised elegance, capturing not just Andrew's attention, but the attention of everyone around her. I stood proud beside him, downplaying the whispers in my mind. My heart held onto the belief that the essence of my family would remain. But I soon sensed a shift. It was subtle at first, a playful jab about my chicken being too salty, or her advice on other modern parenting strategies. My heart raced as I absorbed her words, so carefully veiled with charm. Those delicate threads of my authority began to fray, and I felt invisible, standing at the edges of my own family. The warmth of our shared memories began to chill, unwinding with every encounter that felt increasingly alien. Longing swelled within me to fight against the tide, to reclaim my place, but with every slight, it became harder to articulate what I felt. I could see Andrew's face, a mix of confusion and discomfort, and the laughter we once shared now felt muted, a shadow of its former self. My chest tightened with the realization that the bond we had seemed to flicker like a failing light, hardly illuminating the love we once held so fiercely. I closed my eyes and returned to the memories of bedtime stories, of a time when Andrew rested his head on my shoulder, feeling safe and warm. There was once a time when I understood my significance in his life, but as love turned to silence, I began to dread what more I might lose if I stayed passive. Choices laid before me. But for now, one truth pierced through the shadows. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. The wedding day passed in a blur, a kaleidoscope of smiles and celebratory laughter. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling of looming uncertainty. Melissa possessed a charm that entranced everyone, including Andrew. She radiated confidence, her laughter often ringing loudest among the guests. But the more I watched her, the more I began to see the cracks beneath her polished surface. I still remember the reception, the smell of fresh flowers mixing with the enticing scent of the catered meal. As we celebrated, I noticed how effortlessly she commanded the room, claiming attention with her stories and anecdotes. But somewhere beneath her laughter, I felt a faint sense of discomfort. She embraced my son, flaunting her newfound role with a boldness that stung. Clapping her hands, she'd declare my cooking too traditional, suggesting restaurant options instead, her voice dripping with a sweetness that often concealed a sharp edge. Months rolled by, and I found myself standing at the periphery of their lives, a ghost in my own home. Melissa took an undeniable lead in family gatherings. "Let's do movie nights my way," she chirped one evening, twitching her nose in mock disdain at our previous traditions. The laughter that once filled the house started to wane under her reign, replaced by her preferences, which seemed to echo louder than any voice I dared to raise. I attempted to remain relevant, clutching at old recipes and weaving stories from years past. But my attempts were met with thin smiles and sidelong glances of amusement from Melissa. Her influence crept in like a vine, wrapping around my sense of identity until I began to question every aspect of my role. I remember one particularly cold night, sitting curled up under a blanket, loneliness clawing at my insides. Melissa had suggested they skip family traditions for the holidays and start their own. "It's time to create new memories, don't you think?" She directed the family photograph, maneuvering me just outside the frame as she beamed with my son and grandchildren. I stood stiffly, piecing together my heart, wondering how she could thrive in a world I built. The sharp contrast of my cooking was the first crack. One evening, after slaving over an elaborate dinner, I presented the dishes with the pride I once felt was my birthright. Melissa's remark pierced my heart. "Well, I guess every family has its iffy recipes." Her friends chuckled and their laughter rose, filling every corner of the room, overshadowing my offering. In that moment, I felt the tide surge against me, the laughter washing over and around me. The first warning signs had been muted whispers at family dinners, exchanges I tried to dismiss. I tried brushing away the discomfort they stirred within me, thinking it was a passing phase of adjustment. After all, what mother would pin her identity on the whims of a woman who had only just stepped into the role of a wife? But the more I observed, the clearer it became that Melissa had no intention of honoring my legacy. As Lucy and Max joined in, their interactions painted a vivid picture of the changes taking root. They giggled at her humor, each laugh echoing louder than mine. I felt invisible, a witness to my own eradication. The din of their joy rippled through the room like a joyous song, but it only deepened my sense of isolation. One afternoon, while tucking my favorite family recipes for a holiday gathering, I found Melissa's handwritten notes nestled within the pages. They were gushing revisions, her notes commenting on how to streamline my meals, to make them less cumbersome. At that moment, a crack formed in the foundation of our interaction, the air between us thickening with tension. My fingers trembled as I put the notes away, feeling the weight of betrayal seep into my bones. Yet, any time I wanted to address my unease, questions flickered in my mind. How much of this was me being overly sensitive? Was I being too dramatic, an overreaching mother trying to pull at strings that had already woven themselves into the tapestry of their lives? Nonetheless, disdain sat at the tip of my tongue, and I felt my heart beating faster in response. Flip the calendar to family dinners, and I anticipated the exchanges with dread. Melissa would often steer the conversation, and when I interjected with a story or a recommendation, I felt a wave of dismissal wash over me. Andrew would smile apologetically, as if torn between his loyalties, another cut that left a jagged edge on my heart. He participated in discussions, nodding to Melissa's opinions while ignoring mine. With every gathering, the grip of my self-doubt tightened. Moments asked for celebration devolved into chaotic reminders of my fading relevance. The more my heart sunk, the more Melissa thrived, navigating our family with an authority that made me feel both adrift and obsolete. As the shadows lengthened, I began to resent the very person who had once stood before me with joyful acceptance, my son's wife, my daughter's new mother. Unbeknownst to Andrew, beneath that veneer of familial unity, my heart shouted louder than any silence I had endured, desperately seeking a way back. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. As the days turned to weeks, the atmosphere in our home thickened with tension. Each family gathering brought a wave of dread. Melissa's silent humiliation stacked higher. Each time I felt more like a ghost in my own life. The laughter surrounding her felt consuming, swallowing whole the love I had built around our family. One Sunday afternoon, I spent the morning preparing a hearty beef stew, the enticing smell filling the house. I hoped to create a warm environment, to reclaim the family traditions that once brought us together. But as we gathered at the table, Melissa cut into my efforts with a dismissive tone. "Mom, we should really try quinoa salad instead of this," she said. Her voice bright and light, but the chill of her words pierced through me. Andrew smiled at her, and in that moment I felt invisible, my heart sinking as the warmth of our shared memories got lost in the chilly atmosphere she created. Lucy and Max ignored my attempts to engage, opting instead for the laughter directed at Melissa. I sat in silence, struggling to find comfort among the remnants of family love that felt unnecessary under the weight of her remarks. I swallowed hard, remembering the fun we used to have around the kitchen table, a vibrant mix of stories and laughter. Months passed, and more moments like that one followed, each slight layering further discontent onto my spirit. To Melissa, family traditions were all but relics, and she shattered them one by one with her insistence on introducing her new ways. The heartwarming family movie nights I cherished were replaced by her choices, the atmosphere she cultivated still ringing loudly, drowning out voices I'd previously held dear. When we celebrated Max's recent soccer victory, I baked a bright, layered cake, pouring my heart into every decoration. I wanted them to remember the jubilance of my baking, the love that came with it. Melissa immediately cast an at-a-glance, judging gaze over my creation. "If you mix the flavors better, it wouldn't be so boring," she remarked, laughter erupting from her friends, and my heart shattered as joy turned into mockery. In her laughter, I felt stripped of any significance I once had, longing to shout that my heart, my identity, had resigned not to her disdain but to her ignorance. Andrew's laughter echoed in response, and the laughter from Melissa bounced off the walls, filling every corner of my home with tension, leaving me feeling exposed. The silence I faced carved deeper divides. The more I attempted to speak, the quieter my voice grew. I found myself withdrawing from conversations, afraid of the reactions that would follow, retreating to memories of old traditions instead. The once cherished family stories had faded, and the echoes of my past began to morph into mournful whispers. Drowning in uncertainty, I took solace in looking through old photo albums, reminiscing about the vibrant moments we once shared. Even the vibrant colors in those photos felt dull against the backdrop of my current reality. In this quiet solitude, I realized that I had allowed her presence to dim my light, and I felt a fierce frustration rising within me. How dare she twist our family's traditions, making me feel like an outsider in my own home? Yet, I wrestled with my own fears: fear of rejection, fear of confrontation. I wanted to confront Melissa and reclaim my family. I wanted to defend my place in the hearts of those I loved, but instead, I felt trapped in a cycle of humiliation that fed her sense of authority. I had sacrificed so much for this family, and now it echoed through the halls like an unfinished symphony. And still, I knew that as long as I remained quiet, I would be powerless to change how I was perceived. I could still reclaim my place at the table, reignite my role as the matriarch of the family. I began to understand that in the face of her humiliation, I had to rise. The realization ignited a spark within me, one that would help me stand, if not in anger, then in quiet defiance. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. Determined to reclaim my place, I realized that I first need a clearer understanding of the stakes at hand. In the coming weeks, I begin to watch and listen more closely, not just for Melissa's words, but for the subtle dynamics at play in our family. I pay attention to the nuances in conversations and the way Andrew interacts with her versus how he interacts with me. Each moment is a fresh brushstroke on the canvas of my life, and I need to see the whole picture: a family whose bonds are fraying as laughter replaces understanding. At family dinners, I force myself to be more observant. I sit there, observing the way Melissa nudges Andrew, steering conversations toward her interests. There's a playful flick in her eyes every time she makes a joke at my expense, the way she takes the air from my lungs with a practiced flick of her wrist. I watch as my son laughs, always the good son, the one who finds humor in her jabs rather than confronting them. It brings forth the weight of my silence, engraving a sense of bitterness in my heart. I spend evenings scrolling through my phone, trying to piece together conversations I'd half heard. I glance through social media posts, the carefully curated images of our gatherings, all with her at the center. Each picture shows Melissa glowing amidst my family, her presence overshadowing my own. "Look at our beautiful family," she captions, her arms entwined around Andrew and the children, while I hover just out of the frame, a shadow in fading light. I feel a mounting urgency, realizing these moments aren't just charming posts, they're an incremental dismantling of my role. An oppressive fog shrouds my recollections of our history. I begin to take notes, a small notebook resting beneath stacks of old family photos and mementos across my dining table. I jot down instances of Melissa's condescension, her subtle digs wrapped in humor. "Mom, have you thought about taking up yoga? To ease the stress you seem to carry," she had said, a statement cleverly masked as concern, yet sharp enough to cut. Each instance becomes a weapon, a tool in my strategy for reclaiming my dignity. Through the process of capturing these moments, I also turn the lens inward. I start exploring the decisions I made when Andrew and Melissa first married, emphasizing agency over reactivity and vulnerability. One rainy afternoon, I replay a recent family gathering in my mind. I had brought up an old family tradition, a game we used to play around the holidays, only for Melissa to interject, "Oh, I don't think we need to drag out the old games, do we? Let's keep it fresh. Who wants to relive the past?" Her words felt heavy, a stone landing in my throat. I'd frozen, not knowing how to respond, caught in that momentary silence again. It clicks. I need to prepare for our next family dinner, where I can command my space without fear. And to do that, I require more than feelings. I need solid ground beneath my feet. Melissa often seems at ease in conversations, and I realized that I need to harness that same confidence, transform it into authority to protect my identity. A week later, during our next family dinner, I test my tactics. I've decided to address an area of my expertise, family recipes. As we sit, my dish takes center stage, a roasted vegetable platter with seasonal flavors served alongside my carefully crafted dips. I present it with pride, positioning myself between Andrew and Melissa. It's my way of marking the territory of my past, a statement in ingredients and memories. When the laughter erupts, I jump in smoothly. Melissa, have you ever tried roasting those vegetables? Do you know how to blend the flavors? I see those familiar eyes, or at least they used to be familiar, flicker toward me, an acknowledgement I've demanded in silence. I can feel Andrew's gaze move hesitantly between us, searching for the balance of peace in the midst of rising tension. For the first time, I dive deeply into the conversation. I share stories of why each recipe matters, the love, the time, and the traditions behind it. Participants begin sharing their own versions, feeding off my confidence instead of her critique. Melissa, sensing the shift, doubles down, attempting to upstage me, offering quick comments about modernizing my approach. But I don't waver. I listen patiently, interjecting, "That's interesting, but have you considered that authenticity lives within those traditions?" I see her smile falter, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face, brief, but it's there. It feels like a small victory in my heart. After dinner, I take the opportunity to gather family input. I want to bring back the old traditions. "Who's with me?" I proclaim, watching as some faces soften, nodding, while Andrew tries to manage the conversation. My heart races with a swell of hope, while I savor the impact of defiance blossoming before me. Weeks turn into months, and I continue gathering these instances, collecting pieces of evidence that accumulate like a mosaic. In safety, I catalog the moments Melissa subtly belittles my influence, a running list that fuels my resolve. My kitchen becomes my sanctuary, a realm of tradition where my power blossoms anew. The emotional scars Stephen's silence and Melissa's barbs had carved deepen, yet so does my resolve. I can feel the tipping point approaching, and I prepare myself for the confrontation that feels inevitable. I decide to reveal my findings publicly, feeling the thrill of reclaiming authority as the matriarch of our family. My heart races, knowing action is inevitable. It ignites the recognition that standing up isn't purely about defiance, but about honoring the work I've put in as a mother, wife, and creator of our family's legacy. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. As I navigate my way through the weeks leading up to our next family gathering, each moment feels charged with anticipation. The quiet resolve I've built is a fragile yet potent force, a carefully constructed facade covering ever-growing emotional tumult. My heart flutters wildly, cracking against the silence I know must be overcome. I spend hours preparing. I am not just gathering recipes, I'm weaving a tapestry of my family's history, one that has subtly unraveled over time under Melissa's subtle criticism. I cook, chop, and season, layering smells of nostalgia into the air, making hearty pastas and rich sauces, meals steeped in memory. Each ingredient is chosen not just for flavor, but for the stories they carry, the essence of generations before me. But the emotional weight of my preparations doesn't go unnoticed in the kitchen. Conversations become riddled with tension as I replay each subtle slight Melissa dealt in the prior gatherings. As I chop basil, I remember her quip about my meticulous nature when I set the table in our family's colors for the holidays. I let the anger flow as the knife slices through the herb, my heart pounding, a rhythmic reminder of my mounting frustration. Soon, I replace old doubts with fresh resolve. The night of the family dinner arrives and the house is awash with scents that hug the rooms like a warm embrace. I dress in a deep emerald green that accentuates my features, a color that reminds me of strength and growth. I feel ready. As they arrive, there's a familiar shuffle of laughter and small talk, but this time there's an edge to my demeanor, a burgeoning confidence that sits deep within my chest. As we gather around the table, I listen intently to the conversations. Melissa commandeers an early discussion, sharing updates on her work with enthusiasm. I watch and note how Andrew's gaze remains fixed on her. A sight that once pierced my heart now fuels my determination instead. I subtly position my contributions and reminisce fondly about holiday gatherings past. I beckon the children to join. Max and Lucy are my anchors, my beautiful connection to the family beyond the barriers that have been erected. What do you guys remember about Grandma's famous apple pie? I ask them, narrowing my eyes at Melissa, seeking to pull them into a conversation that brings our cherished traditions to light. Their eyes brighten as they recall the sweet, indulgent times spent in the kitchen, the love we shared enveloping us fully in the very essence of familial unity. Slowly, as they share their own stories, I see Melissa's grip on the conversation weaken. Each laughter, infused with affection, subtly pricks at her confidence. It feels like a warm breeze flows through the room, juxtaposed against the frost of her earlier dismissals. As they reminisce, I redirect the dialogue back to our family roots with a smile and an ease foreign to me just months prior, eager to seize this momentum. Eventually, I address the elephant in the room. "You know, Melissa," I say lightly, gauging her reaction, "I think it's time we brought back some of the family traditions. The kids love it, and they deserve to know their history, our history." I watch her face shuffle through disbelief, and for once it's a satisfaction that bubbles within me, blooming like a flower in the spring. "Mom," Melissa chimes, her voice heavy with what I sense is an attempt to maintain control, but my tone broadens as I take the reins. "I think keeping traditions alive is important. It's what ties us together." The words echo in the room, and I can feel Andrew's eyes dart toward me, his surprise evident. An affirmative murmur floats among the children, heightening my confidence. Melissa falters. "Maybe," she mutters, the moment laced with tension as I raise my voice slightly about a dish I had prepared, one echoing the very traditions we'd long honored. Melissa attempts to shift the conversation back towards her programming in the office, yet I refuse to let her redirect our dialogue. "Melissa," I assert firmly, gathering the courage that has blossomed within me over the past months, "tradition is the heart of our family. It's something that enriches our connections. Wouldn't you agree?" My voice resonates with strength, clarity, molding my purpose as if awakening a dormant take-charge spirit to reclaim what has been lost. Silence envelops the room, an almost palpable tension woven through as everyone processes my statement. I see the flicker in Andrew's eyes, a mixture of surprise but, more importantly, an acknowledgement of my presence. The years of maternal sacrifice melded together stand as a fortitude behind my words. Melissa's response cracks the air. "I see your point, Helen," she finally admits, albeit begrudgingly. The way she says my name, my full name, reverberates with a weight I had longed to recover. It feels like an acknowledgement, a recognition that had eluded me before. "But we should embrace the future too, right?" A chance at negotiation. "Absolutely," I reply, measured and composed, yet maintaining my ground for the importance of our foundation, our family's roots. The future is built upon what we honor in the past. Let's find ways to blend. After dinner, the children are buzzing, eagerly recounting their favorite moments. I sense a shift, something new has begun. Confronting Melissa kindled an ember, one primarily stoked by the fervor within me, the deep commitment toward not just defending my history, but nurturing our future. Later, as I clean up, I take a moment to absorb the transition. Small glimmers of hope flash before me, and tangled emotions begin to unravel. Being courageous doesn't mean losing love or connection, but rather forging a path that honors both tradition and growth. I see how the shared acknowledgement of our past could pave the way for a united future. The walls surrounding our family may have cracked slightly, but they've not crumbled. The connection we share is one that until now had been obscured by tension and competition. As I wipe the counter, I tell myself that reclaiming my dignity will be twofold: elevating tradition while embracing the evolving relationships around me. I stand tall in the knowledge that this is just the beginning, a necessary step toward solidifying my place at the table. I can reclaim my narrative, not just for myself, but for my family, for the legacy I intend to uphold. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. The days following our family dinner swell with an energy I haven't felt in years. The room I once occupied only in the shadows suddenly bursts with light. With each moment, I digest the bittersweet taste of reclaimed confidence, a knowledge that fighting for my place is worth the struggle. I'm driven by a fire to retrain our family's narrative, no longer just a background character in someone else's story. With resolve, I start to draft a plan not only for confronting Melissa again, but for reigniting the essence of who I am within this family. With paper in hand, I jot down how I want to portray our family traditions, serving old recipes at gatherings interspersed with new flavors. My grandmother taught me that adaptability nourishes growth, and it feels like the time has come to showcase that. Each entry on my list grows with the weekends, suggestions interwoven with stories I wish to share, trips into the past that still hang thick in our kitchen. I can see it now. Family gatherings rekindled as opportunities for new stories to arise, ones that envelop everyone in shared laughter, warmth, and joy, all revolving around the hearth of my heart. One weekend, while visiting the farmer's market, I gather ingredients for a familiar dish: stuffed bell peppers I'd made for school fundraisers and various family celebrations. Among the bright colors of fresh produce, I spot a woman in her 60s, her face etched with warmth. "Hello, dear? Making something special?" she asks, holding a basket laden with vegetables. "Just trying to bring family traditions back to life," I tell her, my voice rising with enthusiasm. I share my plans, aiming to reintegrate old favorites into our modern lives, weaving together nostalgia and progress. Her laughter dances through the air, warming me inside. "That's lovely to hear. Food really anchors us, doesn't it?" she replies, placing a hand on her heart before moving past. As I drive home, the gears of my plan begin to turn more smoothly. I envision building these culinary gatherings into events, inviting family to participate, like painting a canvas where all our lives coalesce. I decide that during our next dinner, I will incorporate elements from our traditions: storytelling, cooking together, laughter, and joy. It's time to pull my family back toward our roots. The day of our next gathering arrives, and I rise early, eager to prepare. I'm resolute and intentional as I step into the kitchen, gathering my ingredients and laying out the tools. I have invited not only family, but also Melissa's parents, hoping to create a flexible but tightly knit atmosphere, one that honors each person's unique contribution without allowing Melissa to dictate the pace or direction. As they enter, their faces fill the room, the light from the sun spilling into the space and igniting warmth. Our kitchen bursts into life, the sense of simmering spices dancing alongside laughter. I take a moment to relish it. This is my territory, the realm where I have toiled and cultivated love. Yet, as the evening starts, a subtle tension simmers just beneath the surface. I can feel Melissa slide into her familiar command of the gathering, her energy tugging on the threads of conversation. But this time, I remain vigilant, ready to steer the course. I've been proactive, devising a plan that taps into our shared legacy and restructures the narrative. During the first course, I invite everyone to share their favorite family recipes and the stories behind them, hoping to set the stage for the evening's unveiling. I smile at Andrew and ask him to start an affirmation. His warm, affectionate smile shimmers in a way that had been absent in previous gatherings. He begins sharing a fond memory of his grandmother's lasagna, and I gently prompt the children to recognize the importance of heritage. Melissa makes a face, a flicker of irritation crossing her lips. As everyone opens up about their anecdotes, I realize that Melissa, a once commanding presence, finds herself facing an unexpected decline of authority. Each shared story acts like a pebble disrupting the smooth surface of the pond she cultivated so diligently. I see children's eyes widen in excitement as the family's shared history emerges, stories wrapped in tradition and love, recapturing the joy that had grown muted for so long. As the evening progresses, I transition smoothly into the centerpiece dish, my stuffed bell peppers, aroma swirling from the oven. I wanted to share something that merges flavor and legacy, I say, revealing the beautifully baked peppers. As I serve the dish, I emphasize that the ingredients come not just from the market, but from everything we've built as a family over the years. While I dish the food, I feel empowered as I watch the children run to fetch forks and napkins, a lively buzz igniting the air. The warmth of shared solidarity replaces the barriers that had separated us for so long, reminding me that we thrive in unity. I take a chance and approach Melissa as she stands before the table, still holding a smirk of quiet skepticism. "Melissa," I say gently, "I want you to feel included in this too. The family thrives on collaboration. Do you have a recipe in mind? Something you'd like the kids to help prepare next time?" She hesitates, and for a moment I see uncertainty flicker across her face. I guess I could think of something," she finally replies, her voice softer than I've heard before. It feels as if a crack has begun to form, a potential shift in our once turbulent dynamic. The evening continues, filled with laughter as we transition from cooking into storytelling, sharing moments that assuage the burdens that once hung heavy over the table. Children scamper around, their enthusiasm contagious. I catch a momentary gaze from Andrew, nodding with approval, a gentle reminder of the tenderness once buried beneath layers of conflict. As the night wraps, I recapture my strength and determination. The wheels of my plan have officially been set in motion. My heart whispers promises of hope to come, unity, laughter, and a restored sense of belonging, the very things family should bring together. This first success feels monumental, a stepping stone toward reclaiming the connection I've longed for. In this moment, I am reminded of my mantra, a personal jewel fortifying me against displacement. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart. Weeks slip by and the winds of change ripple through our family dynamics like a long-awaited summer rain. Each gathering draws us closer, and the laughter rings out again, filling spaces that had grown hollow. I embrace the new rhythms of our gatherings. It feels like tending to a garden that had lain in neglect, now bursting forth with life. On this sunny afternoon, we've gathered in my backyard for a family BBQ. The air is thick with smoke and sweet aromas, invoking memories of summers past. I've invited Melissa's parents, hoping to weave tighter connections and further break down walls. We prepare dishes side by side, my confidence soaring as I guide our children in assembling vibrant salads, marinated skewers, and fresh fruit platters. As laughter fills the air, I catch a glimpse of Melissa hovering by the grill, her face caught in a mix of curiosity and apprehension. She watches my interactions with Andrew, how we share in cooking together, even stealing moments to draft plans for future trips or activities we'd like to take as a family. My heart beats fiercely. It feels like I've taken residence again in the heart of my family, reclaiming the vibrant energy once clouded by discontent. "Hey, Melissa," I call out, hoping to draw her closer. "Why don't you join us? We could use all hands on deck." Initially, she hesitates. I can read the internal battle playing out across her features. Yet, my smile remains open. It's an invitation layered with my desire for us to forge a new beginning. Her mouth forms a tentative smile as she joins us, and I feel an electric tension pull taut among us. "What do you need help with?" she asks, attempting nonchalance but betraying her intrigue. "We have the marinade for the kebabs ready, and you can sprinkle in your favorite spices," I offer, determined to reaffirm this bond. With each passing moment, we navigate subtle hurdles together. This time, there's no sharpest razors at the edges of the conversation, only gentle nudges toward inclusion. The grill sizzles as I explain the importance of family recipes, how they encapsulate love and identity. Amid the bustling activity, the laughter blissfully drowns out the skirmish of barriers inching toward the possibility of camaraderie. As Melissa edges closer, I seize the opportunity and gently invite her to share a family recipe, a gesture meant to affirm her role in our family. "You know, I would love for you to share that pasta dish you always talk about. It sounds delightful." For a moment she falters, but then, in a sudden burst of bravery, she launches into the fond memories of growing up with that recipe. Words flow as if she's unveiling a hidden treasure. The children gather around her, faces bright with interest. I can feel the tide shifting. Each word reverberates like a heartbeat, weaving us together with threads of understanding. "Are you ready to help teach the kids?" I prod gently, sensing a softening of her defenses. She looks at me with surprise, but then nods. Together, we merge our culinary worlds, creating a shared moment that feels crucial, like droplets of rain renewing the soil beneath our feet. As Melissa demonstrates the merging of flavors, I catch Andrew's appreciative glance, a flicker of the pride I've longed to see in him. For the first time in years, I watch him fully engage with us, indulging in the story and laughter that permeate our gathering. With every shared bite of food and every breath of laughter, I feel the past healing. This isn't merely a dinner. It's the reclamation of our family's essence. Each dish tells a story, every shared experience building a bridge across the chasms that had once fractured us. As we finally sit down to eat, I hold my breath, watching Melissa interact with Andrew and the children, buoyed by newfound camaraderie. The joy radiates from everyone, a coming together that feels anchored in love. And when the words of my mantra slip softly from my lips, they roll like water gliding through the cracks, setting forth momentum for our relaciones to flourish with hope. They can mute me at the table, never in my heart.